Good evening, this is BelGeode and we are back with some DoveTail Games Flight School. We haven't done this one for a long time. So, since I got the new graphics card in here, I think it's time to head back into DoveTail Games Flight School. We'll hop in the DA-42, that's the Diamond Twin Star, and we'll do a little flight around southwestern PA. So we are here at Allegheny County Airport, which, if you remember, is my home airport. It's actually the second closest to my actual real-life home. K-Pitt is closer, but K-Pitt is more of an international type of airport. And we're going to be flying to Johnstown, which is just east of the entire Pittsburgh region. It's probably going to be like a half-hour flight, maybe a little bit longer, but we'll see. Alright, so now that we are in the cockpit, let's see if we can set about starting this thing up. I have to admit, I have not been in flight school as often as I would have liked, but I think I remember how most of this stuff goes. So there we go, we got the avionics and the power on. We're probably going to need to get the magnetos on. I'm looking around to see if there's anything else that I'm missing here. Okay. Alright, let's start the left one. Clear prop! Okay, good start. Now, how the hell do I turn the right one on? I know I need to flip the switch, but I'm thinking the ignition key only goes one way. Alright, let's try it. Yep. That's not correct. What about right mouse button, perhaps? Take a look at the prop here. Right mouse button, and there we go. Okay, well, that worked. Alright, not exactly as intuitive as I would have thought, but it works. At least we've got the engines on. And today, by the way, is August the 19th, 2016, which is National Aviation Day. So yay, this is about as close as I'm going to get to a real-life cockpit today. I'm just coming off of work and recording this especially for you guys. So there you go. This is my contribution to National Aviation Day. And also, don't forget that I'm doing that 24-hour flight simulation live stream. I'll be participating in it. I won't be flying the full 24 hours, but it's called Flight Angels 2016. You're going to be seeing a lot more information about it towards the end of the month. Alright, so I'll talk about it more later. But first, let me show you my flight plan, which I've nicknamed the Big Dipper. So we're going to start out here at Allegheny County Airport, just to the east-southeast of Pittsburgh. Then we're going to move due east, and we're going to pass by some smaller airports, starting with Greensburg-Jeannette Regional Airport, which is really a small, crappy-looking airport. You're going to see more of it in X-Plane as I flesh it out in X-Plane. Then we're going to continue on past Arnold Palmer Regional Airport, otherwise known as Latrobe Airport. Now that's actually a bigger airport in this area. It's considered like a secondary destination if you can't get into Pitt. Alright, and then we have some waypoints that are just kind of threw in there. In particular, there's an NDB here for Somerset. Somerset is kind of important because if you remember your history back in 2001, 9/11 happened, and that's where that plane went down. And then we're going to be using that as part of our approach vectors to get into Johnstown. So, by the way, this is going to be mountain country that we're flying into, so I'm going to love that. Oh, yes! I get to see all the mountains and stuff in western PA, the Allegheny Mountains, and it might actually make the pine trees look more in place. Sorry, DoveTail. I know I keep ragging on you about the dang pine trees. Yeah, you really got to fix that. Alright, now that we are in, let me make sure that the engines are doing what they need to do. There's a little bit of an imbalance in RPM there. Whoa, screen just jumped. Alright, but the oil temperature looks fine, the fuel looks fine. We do need some flaps though, so let me go ahead and pull down the flaps one notch. And we can also set the autopilot ahead of time, so I'm going to be going up to about 5,000 feet off the deck for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and set up our altitude, and that way we can turn it on once we take off, and the plane should automatically head up there. Now in concert with that, the other thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to change our navigation. So I'm pressing CDI. And that's what I'm looking for, GPS en route. So that will allow us to, when we engage the lateral navigation, get on course with the GPS path. So pretty much we're going to be doing a little bit of autopilot flying. Now I realize if you're using flight school as you're intended to, you know, for initial training, it's probably not something you'll learn straight off the bat. Alright, canopy coming down, canopy closed, looking good. Sun is about to set. Beautiful day out. It's probably the closest I can come to real life weather. Speaking of which, let's get the ATIS.
Allegheny Airport information. Echo 2234 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky conditions. Few clouds at 500. Temperature 13. Dew point 3. Altimeter 2992. ILS runway 10 in use. Landing and departing runway 10. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have. Echo.
Sounds like a plan to me. Okay, so we're going to be departing to the east. So let's go ahead and call for clearance. Allegheny ground, Diamond, November 42, Delta Alpha, request taxi for east departure with Echo. Thought they said Delta.
November 42, Delta Alpha. Taxi to a hold short of runway 10 using taxiway Charlie Alpha. Contact tower on 121.1 when ready.
I won't lie to you folks, that sounds like that readback is really slow. Taxi to and hold short, runway 10 using taxiway Charlie Alpha, Diamond 2 Delta Alpha. I think we need like an edit voice pack or something in this flight sim to kind of speed up the ATC voice, and maybe it won't sound so out of place to me. I don't know. I'm just mouthing off as usual. Alright, but we do have the cheat sheet on, and I do believe we are ready to taxi out, so I hope you're all buckled up, because we are heading out. Brakes coming up now. And one thing I will say about this aircraft that I'm not a huge fan of, it seems really squirrely when it comes to ground handling. The steering on this it leaves a little bit to be desired, shall I say. Now, I haven't done any tweaking at all like I would with FSX, so I haven't changed, you know, any of the settings in the aircraft CFG or anything like that. And as you can see, we're kind of swinging all over the place there. So I don't know if maybe some tweaks are incoming for this aircraft, but that might be a good idea, because I'm pretty sure that the real aircraft is probably not this sensitive. But then that's just my honest criticism. I've never even flown the real aircraft, so you really can't take my word for gospel. Alright, it's going to take us a while to get to the runway, so through the magic of editing, I will see you there. Well, it took us a couple of minutes, but here we are, right at runway 10. So come on, baby. You can make it around this corner. Alright, this looks good. So we'll go ahead and pull up to the hold short line. And there we go. Perfect. We'll hop back in the cockpit now. Alright, so you know what it's time for. We've got to contact the tower and tell them that we would like permission to take off so that we can begin our little cross-country journey to Johnstown. And along the way, I'll tell you some things about this area, and maybe I'll touch on a little bit about aviation, National Aviation Day. But first, we got to get clearance. Allegheny Tower, Diamond, November 42, Delta Alpha, ready at runway 10, departure to the east.
Diamond, November 42 Delta Alpha, cleared for takeoff, runway 10, departure to the east approved.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 10, Diamond 2 Delta Alpha. Okay, good deal. So go ahead and close the ATC menu. And come off the brakes. Here we go, moving out. Now, I didn't check to see if there were any traffic coming in, because honestly, I haven't seen too much traffic in this flight sim. I'm not quite sure if there's even an option to set how much traffic you would like to have. I know there is traffic, because every now and then I'll hear stuff on radio. But I really don't see a whole heck of a lot, so I'm not sure if that's by design or what. But be that as it may, we're just about lined up now. I have no idea how strong the winds are, even though I did hear the ATIS. I'll be honest with you, I didn't pay too much attention. All I know is it's time for brakes down, throttles up. Next stop, Johnstown. And everything's looking good. Alright, we're off. I'm already swerving all over the place. See, this is the one thing that I've found is a huge difference between any of the ESP platforms, that being FSX or Flight School or, you know, things like that, versus things like X-Plane. I've noticed in X-Plane you don't slip and slide all over the place like you're taxiing or rolling out on glass. I'm going to want to give it a little bit of rudder here before I take off. Speaking of which, should be right about V1 coming up. There it is. VR right there. I'm going to pull a little bit more speed. V2. Okay, let's rotate. Okay, now we're just past V2. We'll go to the outside. Gear coming up. Alright, gear is up. Flaps coming up. Okay, and there we are, over good old West Mifflin. Alright, now, my next task is going to be to get the autopilot going, so that way we can at least get on course. So, let me see if I can do that real quick here. Actually, where are the autopilot controls on this thing? Oh, there it is. Alright, so that should make us good to go. Oh, wait, why am I going down? No, I don't feel like going for a swim in the Monongahela River today. Okay, well, it's trying to set us back on course, but it doesn't seem to be gaining altitude. Hold on. Oh, crap. Yeah, it locked onto the altitude that I was at, so I've got to change it. Give me 1 second here. Alright, 48, 49, 5,000. There we go. Okay, so we are now set for 5,000 feet above the deck. I did not change the VS, or vertical speed, so it will climb at the rate that it normally would use. Just to be on a safe side, I'm going to keep us at full throttle until we get to our cruise altitude. So, there we go. We are ready, set, go. I'm liking this. And it's a heck of a lot smoother now that I've got that graphics card.
2 Delta Alpha, you're reading my airspace. Frequency change approved.
Alright, thank you, Robotic ATC. And I would like to request flight following. Pittsburgh departure, Diamond, November 42, Delta Alpha is type Diamond, 4 miles east of Allegheny. Request flight following.
Diamond, November 42, Delta Alpha, Pittsburgh departure. Squawk 2576.
Okay. Squawk 2576, Diamond 2, Delta Alpha. And by the way, we're just passing the Monongahela River now.
Delta Alpha, radar contact 4 miles northwest of 340 Delta 2400. Altimeter 2992.
Copy, Diamond 2, Delta Alpha. Alright, so that should do it for the radio communications for right now. Let's go sightseeing. Alright, so the area we're flying over right now is called East McKeesport, and you can see the Monongahela River behind us, as well as to the far left you'll see the airport we just took off from. That was Allegheny Airport. Just above the aircraft, near the center, you will see downtown Pittsburgh, where the other 2 rivers meet up. The Allegheny River coming in from the north, and the Ohio River, which both of these 2 rivers dump into. The airport she was just now referencing is off to the right, which is 31 Delta, otherwise known as Inter-County Airport. So in case you were curious about what National Aviation Day is, it's exactly what it sounds like. August 19th in the United States, we have a national observation that celebrates basically the development of aviation. And I'm checking our flight path here, so just don't mind me. The holiday was established in 1939 by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who issued the proclamation which designated the anniversary of Orville Wright's birthday to be National Aviation Day. So there we go. Happy birthday, Mr. Wright. Were it not for you, I wouldn't be looking at this GPS right now, flying close to 4,000 feet above southwestern PA, virtually. Seriously, they're all related, so yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be doing this. But in any event, there's a lot of stuff that's going on today, and as a matter of fact, I happen to know that the AOPA organization is having a fly-in this weekend over in Bremerton, Washington, which is over by Seattle. And I'm sure these pine trees would probably look a hell of a lot better there. I'm sorry. Okay, I promise, DoveTail. I'm not going to mention the pine trees anymore as long as you can give me your word that eventually you'll fix the lamp glass in this thing. Alright, but the aircraft does look sweet. And I have to say, I'm really loving the high frame rates that I'm getting on this thing. I don't know if it's really translating in the video, but I tell you what, folks, this looks and feels good. Directly ahead and off to the left, you will see our first waypoint. This is Greensburg-Jeannette Regional Airport, whose code is 5 Golf 8. And I honestly, not too surprised to say this, but I think that flight school has done a pretty good rendition of what this airport looks like in real life. I'm not kidding, folks. This is all there is. Seriously. There is not much to this airport at all. I can tell you, however, it covers an area of about 121 acres at an elevation of 1,188 feet above mean sea level. It has one runway, which you can see right now, runway 2/20, which is an asphalt surface measuring about 2,605 feet by 50 feet wide. So yeah, there's not much here at all. But makes a good marker for us. And of course, now that we've passed the airport, our next stop is going to be Latrobe Airport, or Arnold Palmer Regional Airport if you prefer. So let me make sure everything's looking good. Look at the little trim wheel there. I like stuff like that. It's those little fine details that do the trick for me. Yeah, this is a well-built aircraft, I've got to say. Alright, looks like we're just about on course here. Oil temp is looking a little bit high, but oil pressure is alright. Coolant temperature is also okay. And one thing I notice about the traffic on this GPS, as I zoom in and out, it tends to change position. I'm not quite sure why that is. But you can see Latrobe coming up ahead, so we should be good to go there. It's only going to take us a few minutes to reach it, but might be able to zoom into it so you can actually see it. So there's the airport. And let's see if we can find it visually here. I think that's it right there. Yep, that is definitely it. Now that probably does not look like it does in real life, so I will forgive DoveTail Games for this one because that's not necessarily an airport that a lot of people know about. Unless, of course, you happen to fly Spirit Airlines a lot because that's their preferred airport to come into. They won't come into Pittsburgh Airport because of the taxes and the fees and so on that they have to pay. So as we close in on Arnold Palmer Regional Airport, let me tell you a little bit about it. First off, the ICAO code for it is Kilo Lima Bravo Echo, or KLBE. And this airport services the area of Latrobe, PA, which you may have seen my little pop-up earlier, if I remember to put it in there. Latrobe is where the world-famous Rolling Rock beer is made. That's a little beer that's got the 33 on the bottle. So if you've ever drank it, now you know where it comes from. Now this particular airport, as I've stated, is a little bit bigger, and it's used by some national carriers as their default airport, so that way they don't have to pay whatever taxes they need to pay for Allegheny County. Spirit in particular comes in here. They've actually been doing that since about February of 2011, and they offer direct service to places like Fort Lauderdale and Myrtle Beach. That actually means a lot to me, considering the fact that my family is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. However, I've never actually been to this airport. My mom, I believe, has flown out of here. I have not. The only reason why that is this is about 2 hours east of where we are. And pardon me, I've got to contact Cleveland Center here. 128.45 Diamond to Delta Alpha. Alright, I'll see if I can get a better view of the airport while I do this here, because I'm trying to multitask. I'm sure you'll appreciate that. Alright, this should do the trick. I want to get a good view of the airport here. Cleveland Center, Diamond, November 42 Delta Alpha with you.
Diamond, November 42 Delta Alpha, Cleveland Center, Roger. Altimeter 2 -2.
Okay, good deal. So we got that done. Alright, now, I started to say there are 2 runways here. You may see them right now. That would be runway 5/23 and 3/21. Now, I'll tell you something. The closer you get to the Allegheny Mountains, the more you're going to find airports that have runways at that kind of angle, as opposed to the traditional east to west that an airport like Cape Pitt has, or an airport like Allegheny. Why is that? Well, you'll notice that the mountains run kind of southwest to northeast. So it almost creates like a wind tunnel down there where, you know, the air is blowing in that direction. So obviously they want to have the runways facing that. A good way that you can take a look at that is on the GPS here. And by the way, I don't think I told you, but the elevation of Latrobe Airport is 1,199 feet above the deck, and it covers an area of about 945 acres. And I noticed we've got some traffic there too, but you can see the orange portions of the GPS. That would be the tops of the mountains, which go upwards of roughly about 4,000 feet above sea level. Alright, I'm looking to see if I can find this guy here. It looks like he's relatively close, but I'm not getting a visual. We should be able to see him right now. I don't know what's up with that. Oh, wait, you know what? I just thought of something. I'm thinking that DoveTail Flight School also suffers from the same thing that FSX suffers from. There's this thing called small particle reject radius, where if an item falls below 1 pixel, the sim simply will not draw it. I'm thinking what's going on here, because you can see the traffic. It's like directly in front of us and off to the left. We should be able to see this guy. But unless he comes within, like, you know, a mile thereabouts, it's not going to render him. Now, there is a way that we can fix that, but it involves tweaking the FSX CFG, which actually, I guess in this case would be an FSC CFG. If none of that makes any sense to you folks, don't even worry about it, especially if you're a newcomer to flight simming or flight school or FSX in general. Don't worry about it. This is stuff that we veterans have been doing essentially to try and make things a little bit more realistic to us, and there's plenty of resources for you online to figure out how to do this stuff the same way that we did. Okay, so it's now a few minutes later. We're getting a little bit closer to Johnstown. You can still see the Allegheny Mountains around us, looking as majestic as ever. Granted, they're not as tall as the Rocky Mountains on the other side of the country, but for what we have over here on the East Coast, I would say we do pretty alright. So, as you can see on Yield GPS dead ahead, we've got the cup of the Big Dipper flight plan here, which basically is going to be an exaggerated downwind and base leg. I did it that way because I kind of wanted to show off a little bit of the scenery in some of the small airports. And of course, right about now, we should be ready to make our turn to downwind. So there we go. We're still on autopilot, by the way, so the plane's just going to do its thing, and we're going to go along for the ride and enjoy the scenery, as always. And then once we get back in the cockpit, I'll tell you a little bit about Johnstown, Cambria County Airport, where we will be landing. So, Johnstown, Cambria County Airport. ICAO code Kilo Juliet Sierra Tango KJST. It is a civil and military public airport. And we're going to see if we can contact them really quick here. There they are. We should probably get the ATIS while we're at it.
Johnstown Airport information. Victor 2302 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky condition. No clouds below 20,000. Temperature 11. Dew point 1. Altimeter 2992. ILS runway 33 in use. Landing and departing runway 33. VFR aircraft through direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have, Victor.
Okay, so we're going to advise Victor. Johnstown Tower, Diamond, November 42 Delta Alpha is 11 miles southwest with Victor to land.
Diamond, November 42 Delta Alpha, Johnstown Tower, enter rectified, runway 33, altimeter 2992.
I think I see him there. Enter left base, runway 33, Diamond 2 Delta Alpha. Okay, so I did a good job on my flight plan because that's pretty much the runway that I had us come in on. Alright, so you just saw the airport there. We're going to go ahead and do our downwind, and then we're going to do our exaggerated base leg. So keep an eye on that GPS and tell me when I get close to my turnaround point. Not that it matters because we're still on autopilot, but I am going to start to bring us down in altitude here. And I gotta be careful because this is not the Pittsburgh area, so the average altitude is not about 1,000 feet. It's gonna be a little bit higher than that, so we're gonna need to watch out for mountains here. Still trying to see if I can get a bead on that airport. Alright, we'll bring it down to about 4,500 for the time being. Yeah, that should be fine. We'll bring it down a little bit further once we're on our base leg, which it looks like we're almost there. So anyway, as I started to say, this is definitely a mixed-use airport. Now, in addition to having a lot of GA flights come in and out of this airport, there is some regional traffic. When this airport was first opened in 1948 as Johnstown Municipal Airport, Allegheny Airlines was the go-to airline that came through here. Of course, Allegheny Airlines got bought out by US Airways, but, you know, prior to that, they used to fly to places like Altoona, which is also in PA, and, of course, Pittsburgh, where I live. Now, United Express currently flies flights out of here to places like Altoona, as well as Washington, D.C., otherwise known as Dulles Airport. In addition to the regional traffic and GA traffic, of course, there's a lot of military units here. Pennsylvania Army National Guard, for example, they've got a reconnaissance battalion here, as well as a general support aviation battalion. And I'm looking around for some of the other smaller airports in this area too to show you. The Marine Corps also has a presence here. Marine Wing Support Squadron 471 is here. Also Marine Light Attack Helicopter Squadron 775. They're all here too. Oh, look at that. There's another airport over there. Cool. See, I told you there's a lot of little small airports here and there. You can probably see one just off to the right of the left prop's edge. So it'll be right over the dashboard there off to the left-hand side. So yeah, there's a lot of airports around here. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the codes for those smaller airports, so I can't really tell you too much about them. Sorry. But yeah, this is the place to go if you want to see a bunch of military helicopters flying around the area. And sometimes they do come out as far west as Pittsburgh to do their exercises and stuff like that. Alright, judging from our angle, I would say we are about ready to turn onto our base leg. Now, there are 2 runways at this airport. We are, of course, going to be landing on runway 33, which is the reciprocal for runway 15 or 15. That is the longer of the 2 runways. It's about 7,003 feet. There is a crosswind runway, that is runway 5/23, which is about 4,386 feet, so it's almost half the length there. And of course, the elevation of this airport is considerably higher. Let me see if I can find it first. Oh, it's around there somewhere. The elevation of this airport is 2,284 feet above sea level, so it is pretty much almost double the elevation of the airport that we took off from. It's pretty dramatic considering the fact that we haven't really traveled that far in the last 30 or so minutes. Alright, it's got to be around here somewhere. Maybe if we look from the outside we'll find it. You know, I think I just saw it out there, probably about our 10 o'clock, or between 10 and 9 o'clock almost. Judging from the GPS, we do not have that far to go until we are on final. So, that should not be a problem. Now, landing this thing is also going to get interesting because of the whole slip and slide thing that I was telling you about when we were taking off. So, if the landing is not perfect, I'm sorry in advance. But there is our airport. You really can't see much here. Nothing is rendering. Which is surprising because I thought I had this thing set to the highest settings. I don't think it's necessarily a graphics card thing. I think it's just, you know, it can only render from a certain distance. But I did see the VASI lights over there, so I know we're on the right path. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start winding this down as we prepare to bring this bird in to Johnstown Airport. Okay, we're almost at our turn to final. Should be pretty textbook. I'll let the autopilot handle the turn to final, and then I'll take it off of autopilot and we'll manually fly this baby in. Even though the ATIS did say there is no wind, I don't know, there's something about the flight model on this particular aircraft that I don't think is 100% accurate, so I feel a little bit more comfortable guiding her in manually. But we got a good view of the VASI lights there, so right about here we should start our turn. At least I imagined that it would. I'm going to see if I can bring us up a little bit to 4,000. I brought us down because I figured this would be fine, but just judging from the view of the airport, yeah, we're probably going to want to be about 4,000 before we begin our final approach. Alright, so here we go. Turning, turning, turning. Yeah, were it not for those trees, I would say this looks pretty close to real life. Alright, I think we are where we need to be. We're losing a little bit of airspeed there, but I'm probably going to go ahead and bring the flaps down in a moment. And that should help us out considerably. Of course, the gear is going to need to come down as well, but let me see first if I can have the autopilot line us up. I'll go ahead and turn off the autopilot and fly us in manually. Whoa, what was that? A little bit of stuttering there. Huh. That was unexpected. I haven't experienced anything like that before. Alright, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, GPS says we are on course. Everything's looking pretty sharp. Speed is just about right for flaps, so there we go. Now, I believe we have 2 notches of flaps here, but I'm going to put down the gear before I put down a second notch of flaps. Let's try and lose a little bit of airspeed here, and hopefully we'll stay at altitude. It looks, according to the VASI lights, like we are where we should be, so I might need to come off the altitude hold here. Alright, now's a good time for the gear. Cleared to land, runway 33, Diamond 2, Delta Alpha. Okay, and the lights say we are white on white, which means we will fly all night, which also means I need to take control of this sucker. Alright, and I just noticed that even though I try to line us up properly, we're still kind of off course. If you can see, we're off to the left of the runway there, so I'll need to fix that. While I'm at it, I'm thinking now would be a great time to put us down to flaps notch 2. So there we go. We're going to balloon up a little bit here, but I'm going to compensate for that. Bring this baby in on final. Let's see, our altitude, roughly about 3,500 thereabouts. We should be fine with that. I did say that the elevation of the airport was 2,284, so we've got a ways to go before we smack into the deck. Alright, give it a little bit of rudder here. See, that's the weird thing about this flight sim. The fact that there's no wind, but it's still behaving like we've got a crosswind. You see this, right? I'm trying to adjust with the rudder, and it's still crabbing us in. I don't get that. I really don't get that. Of course, the clouds aren't moving either, so I don't know what's going on there. I can only hope that this will be stuff that will be ironed out by the time we get the full flight simulator from DoveTail Games, which so far we have not gotten any word as to when that's coming as of this date. But I still hold out hope that they're going to go ahead and do it right, because they did just have a huge survey that they had all of us do, basically asking us what we would like to have in a flight sim. So I think they're trying to nail down what things are going to be the biggest priorities for them to work on, so that they can at least come out with like an alpha or beta version. Although, I do have a little bit of disappointing news. When I spoke to them at Flight SimCon, they did say there wasn't going to be like an alpha or beta. Personally, I think that's a horrible idea, especially something with this much ramification as the next flight sim generation. DoveTail Games, you definitely want to have an alpha and a beta crew. And if possible, you might want to get some of us YouTubers in on it as well, because the feedback that we get from the audience is going to be a hell of a lot more than what we're going to be able to come up with in our own feedback. So you need to hear stuff like this. So yes, alpha, beta, wanted before you come out with this game. Alright, I've been yakking so much that I'm still off course. And look at this, we're still crabbing. Jeez. Alright, you know what? I'm just going to put the airplane down. I'm going to call it done here. We're a little too high up. But welcome to Johnstown, folks. Should be down momentarily. Oh my god, seriously? Come on, line up, baby. Line up. I should not have to do this much work with no breeze just to try and get on a center line. But you know what? That's as good as it's going to get. I'm down. We're in. Sorry about the landing. I'll try not to go off the runway here. Actually, I really do have to try not to go off the runway. Wow, I was not expecting this. This is really behaving like there was a crosswind, but you heard it yourself. There was no wind here. Alright, but you know what? Not even going to worry about it. We're down. We're safe.
2 Delta Alpha. Turn next taxiway.
We need to turn next taxiway. And we've logged so far 2.25 flight hours. Woohoo! I really need to do this thing more often. Alright, I'm going to come off on taxiway Charlie here, and I just realized I am not where I should be, but okay.
Contact ground on 121.7.
And just as before, we're not going to contact ground, but I will acknowledge them. Going to 121.7, Diamond to Delta Alpha. Suckers. I am so not contacting you. Alright, but that will just about do it for me. We are safe and sound here in Johnstown, and you've gotten a chance to see how this bird flies with better graphics card in there. And I hope you enjoyed it. So as we make our way in, I want to thank you as always for watching. This has been BelGeode, and I've been flying the Diamond DA-42 Twin Star in DoveTail Games Flight School, which is the predecessor to what is to come, which is the full flight simulator. Once we hear more about it, we'll let you know. And I also want to remind you one more time about Flight Angels 2016, which is coming. That is the 24-hour flight simulation live stream taking place from February 16th through Sunday the 18th, September 2016, depending on what time zone you're in, of course. You're going to see people like myself, Frugal, Nova Wing 24, Jeff Faviano, Catstrader, and a whole host of other people, including some rather famous names and faces that are going to be making appearances. And I also hear you can fly with us. I'll tell you more about that as we get closer to it, but just keep in mind that the website link is below. You should see that popping up right now. As always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I just want to give a special shout out to all of you new folks that have been coming in and leaving very kind comments. This is why I do this stuff. I want to inspire you. I may not know everything, I may not be the most professional virtual pilot ever, but I at least like to have fun, and hopefully you will too. I'm signing off, folks. Ciao!